Then we've got our State Senator Betsy Johnson joining us this morning, and Betsy and I were visiting about our animal shelter because there's some changes coming up for that, and we'll talk more about that later. But I saw you this weekend, didn't I?
Yes, you did at the June Dairy Parade. What a great day for a parade, and boy, did we all have a good time.
Boy.
You know, I didn't realize that we were on the air when I asked you about that big grant. You were talking about how well the animal shelter was doing and how, I share how important animal shelters are. Our last two kitties, who both lived to be 17 years old and then died, it came from the pound, and we went, not your pound, but our Columbia County pound, and after they were gone and I had the appropriate period of mourning, we went back down and got two more brothers. The only difference was that the old guys just would go bed, bowl, box, bed, bowl, bath, or box. That's all they did. The new ones that were kittens when we got them were the functional equivalent of turning on a weed eater and throwing it into the living room. They pulled stuff down. They've torn stuff up. They run around the house. So
one of the things, though, Betsy, and you did mention the grant, our animal shelter does it mostly, and no large grants have come to help them. They do it mostly, as they say, from the kindness of others. The people that have donated and helped out there, it's just amazing. They're moving to their new site. In fact, the building, thank you, Storm King, is up, and on this 13 acres out on just out by Yellowfur, South 101. And I am so impressed with what they do, and truly a no-kill shelter. We're lucky to have them in Tillamook County.
Well, all communities that have well-functioning animal shelters are blessed because people's penchant to be irresponsible with the breeding practices of their cats and dogs, especially pussycats, and also it never ceases to amaze me how horrible some people are to animals.
I know.
My husband's company is at the end of a road, and people have known for a long time that we have a soft spot in both our heads and our hearts for pussycats, and we keep ending up with pussycats out here. So we've had the feral cat people come and try to trap them so that we don't just have a kitten factory here. They're crafty little devils, though, and getting them in that cage and dragging them down to the vet to get fixed is no easy feat. So anyway, I'm thrilled for Tillamook that they've got a new shelter, and I guess it switches over to the county pretty soon, and bless the hearts of all the volunteers that are willing to work there.
Yeah, exactly so. There'll be actually two shelters. The county is doing something on their own, and our Tillamook Animal Shelter will continue. I wish you could be in town. I know how often you get here, but the Cause for Paws is going to be July 16th, and last year, Betsy, on their first year, they raised over $12,000 for our animal shelter.
July 16th, Cause for Paws. Well, if I can't, I can certainly help them out a little bit financially. I grew up over in Redmond, and there's a great line from a cowboy song that says, "I hear from my ex on the back of my check." So, Cause for Paws on the 16th. Great.
Well, other than that, I know that, and thank you so much. It was great to see you at our June Dairy Parade on Saturday. The largest parade in Oregon, next to our Grand Floral. But and now you're going to be back in town next weekend for sure, at least on Monday.
I think so. I got to be honest with you, Shaena, without my calendar right in front of me,
It's the 4th of July.
Oh, 4th of July. God, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not.
Oh.
The problem is that all of the communities that I represent end up having 4th of July parades.
Sure.
And so I try to scatter myself around, and there are just too many of them. I'm going to do 3 on the 4th of July as it is, because those were 3 that I could space time-wise. Some communities, like Warrenton's, is late in the afternoon, and then good old Vernonia is actually in the evening leading up to their fireworks. But the problem is that all of these parades start at exactly the same time. I have to tell you, the June Dairy Parade is a wonderful parade, and I think it's testimony to Tillamook when you think about who all was there. Our Congressman Kurt Schrader was there. For me, it was kind of bittersweet. This is Mark Labhart's last June Dairy Parade, and he and I have been parade mates ever since I started representing Tillamook. That was back when the office was partisan, and, you know, we wore different political jerseys then. He was county, I was state. But I always thought the symbolism of having us riding together was wonderful, and over the time that I've been privileged to serve Tillamook, Mark and I have become very good friends, and I think have a pretty good track record of service to the community together. I'm going to miss him not being county commissioner. He's been a wonderful colleague and a good friend.
That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. Well, I have to assume that the only thing, it's not the only thing, parades and functions in what could be considered your off time. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, isn't there, Betsy?
Well, let me talk a little bit about it, because tomorrow and Wednesday, lots of people know that my husband's in the aviation business, so we fortunately have access to a plane. So I'm going to load up 6 of my colleagues that are on the Joint Committee on Transportation, and we're going to fly down to Ontario, where we will have a public hearing, and tour some sites and meet with their Area Commission on Transportation. And then we get back on the plane and we go up to Hermiston and, again, tour sites and meet with community folks. To be honest with you, I wish that we were using this time that we're touring around the state, just reinforcing the fact that we have a problem. I really wish that we were sitting in the hermetically sealed room negotiating. This is going to be a very tricky package to put together. And to be truthful with you, I went to a thing called the Transportation Forum the other day. It's a committee of about 60 people, 60 people. And I'm sitting there looking at the assembled group, thinking to myself, any one of you could blow this package up so easily if you take the position that we have to have everything we want and we have to have it now. Let me give you an example. We've now been out on the road twice. Our first trip out, we started in Woodburn, where there are some company stores. There are also some distribution centers. Mm-hmm. Woodburn is growing like a weed. And as a result, the Woodburn overpass there was a mess. And at Christmas time, cars would back up onto I-5 in order to get into the outlet malls. Right. So as part of the Jobs and Transportation Act of 2009 that I was one of the negotiators for, we were able to build an overpass, about $75 million overpass. The thing that was disappointing to me was that the contractor who managed to deliver that project on time, actually ahead of time, and under budget, was not rewarded for that kind of performance. And I hope if we have a package, I want to build performance bonuses in.
Well, I think, and we don't have a problem punishing them if they take too long. We ought to reward them if they get her done efficiently.
Absolutely, absolutely. But anyway, we went out and looked at that site and then looked at the overpass at the Donald Aurora exit on I-5. Very difficult, troublesome, dangerous intersection with a couple of great big truck plazas that that service the motor carrier world. One of the problems there in replacing that overpass is that a set of high-tension, high-voltage wires go right through the site. So, again, very expensive. Mm-hmm. Our second committee hearing, we were on 205. Both of these have been in the general Portland area. The Ontario Hermiston are the first time that we're going to get out into the rest of Oregon. But the second tour that we were on 205, and the Abernathy Bridge is a bridge that crosses the Willamette at Oregon City. Mm-hmm. That bridge narrows down to 2 lanes on both sides from 3, and it's extremely expensive and problematic, both from a permitting perspective as well as a cost perspective. But we would put an extra lane, $150 million. Now, we're applying to get some help from the feds, and they may or may not be there for the state of Oregon, but $150 million. The point of my story, and I keep reinforcing this to my colleagues, is that assuming we get a package at $1 billion, and that's an assumption because the people that are paying for this have something to say about it, and you can't just go to the pumps and just gouge people on all of the fees and taxes that they're paying. But let's assume the package is $1 billion. That means you get 10 $100 million packages. Only 10. And we've got bottlenecks all over this state. And obviously I'm rounding up the numbers. I'm doing it for a purpose, though, to show how great the need is versus how small the available revenues.
Exactly.
And we haven't invested in our transportation package since 2009. I have started characterizing what I hope we do in 2017 as the commencement of continuous improvement in our system. We can't ask the taxpayers to build a system as expensive as this one is and then not take care of it. That's just irresponsible. So we've got maintenance, we've got bridges, we've got across our system, we've got marine needs, we've got aviation needs, we've got transit needs. The bike ped people would tell you we've got bike ped needs. Mm-hmm. And so there just isn't going to be enough money. The point of my story, though, that I started with was the bike ped people are very well organized, and they think that that is the solution. If they dig their heels in, we won't get a package. The other problem that we've got is that the governor has said she is non-negotiable on the low-carbon fuel standard. I'm of the opinion that if we build into a package some accommodation to acknowledge the need to have a cleaner environment, I don't care how we get there. I just care about the result. And apparently some people have gotten really, really wrapped around the axle of how we arrive at the conclusion without, recognizing that right-thinking people may differ on what that conclusion is. I'm more focused on, if you need to build into the package something that benefits the environment, who cares what form it takes? So we've got lots and lots of issues here where there are going to be folks that could make this a showstopper in a heartbeat.
I was wondering, Betsy, is there discussion about the gas tax as opposed to 30 cents a gallon as a coming to a use tax?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, I've always looked at it that we see now the more efficient cars. My car that gets 30 miles to the gallon, I pay the same for gas tax as the poor old guy that's only getting 10 miles to the gallon with his rig.
Well, Oregon has experimented with a thing called Origo, and this is a pay for vehicle miles traveled. Now, I have two problems with that program. First of all, it was not run very well. The guy that ran it was spending most of his time running.
We know how to do it. Trucks have been paying by the weighted mile for years and years.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
But the guy that was running this program at ODOT did a crummy job, and we were paying to send him all over the world. I mean, literally, he was going to Singapore. He was headed out all over the world.
Well, he didn't sell me on it.
There's a lot of PR problems. People think that once you put this little device in your car, it's called a dongle. Once you put that in your car, that it can track, how many times Shaena goes to the liquor store. People feel as though it's an invasion of privacy. And so congestion pricing in Portland probably works where you're just driving across town. Congestion pricing in eastern Oregon, not so much. People don't think a thing of driving 50 or 100 miles in eastern Oregon.
Well, that's what I actually agree with it. If I drive 1,000 miles and I'm in eastern Oregon, but if I don't drive during the heaviest traffic times in Portland, I think I should pay less money. But and they could do it, but they've not come up with a way to sell it yet, in my opinion.
And I'm fine starting an experiment in Portland. Portland fancies itself as being so intensely progressive. Let them start the experiment and see if it's actually efficacious rather than inflicting this on all of Oregon. Mm-hmm. I'd rather start incrementally and see if it actually achieves the goal that it is intended to achieve.
You know what? Maybe we should pay the bills around here. You want to let me take a quick break for a great sponsor? That's our Robies. You don't buy furniture every day, so it just makes sense that when you do invest in that new sofa or recliner, that you're paying the best price possible. Same goes for that mattress or your refrigerator. At Robies Furniture and Appliance, you'll find the top name brands: Maytag, Frigidaire, La-Z-Boy, Lane, Simmons, Tempur-Pedic, and more, all under one roof, all at low, low prices. Robies offers high-volume pricing and selection with small-town service and a smile. They have something in every price range and every taste. And don't forget, Robies offers free delivery to veterans and active duty military. See them right now for great savings, serving the folks who call the coast home. Robies Furniture and Appliance, Astoria, Tillamook, Lincoln City, Newport, and Florence. And I don't know if you were on North 101. But
I was just going to say, that looks like a brand new furniture store.
Isn't that something? And truly investing in the community. They step up. They were a help out at Helping Hands out at our port. Roby's is there for us all the time. A sponsor of our cheesemakers.
I want to put in a plug for what they did for Helping Hands. I am very, very aware of Helping Hands and consider myself a friend of Alan Evans, who's putting that project together. My husband's actually been on and off Alan's board on a couple of occasions. Alan is able to care for homeless people in the private sector at a much more economical rate than sometimes the public sector does. But it was Roby's who helped put beds and mattresses out there. That was an enormous gift to the community and something tangible to really help our homeless problem. And we all talk about it. That's a company that stepped up as a good corporate citizen and provided furniture for Helping Hands. I just can't say enough about what a good operation this is. And if it gets people in, particularly, in the summer now, we worry about it a lot less. But when winter comes and people are sleeping up in the Tillamook forest and in culverts, and Roby's went a long ways towards helping to alleviate the homeless problem in Tillamook, and the whole community should thank them.
I agree with that 100%. So, Beth, what else have you got going on? I promise not to interrupt with gas tax stuff.
Well, I have spent the last 3 weeks with folks from Sheffield, England here working on our Oregon Manufacturing Innovation Center. And they went back to England just about the same time England was leaving the EU.
I won't even, okay, we won't go to where your opinion is on Brexit, but anyway.
Well, they've been here, and we're putting together the opportunity to try to replicate the best aspects of what happened at the University of Sheffield with the Advanced Manufacturing Research Center, and we're making great progress. PCC is building a physical plant here in Columbia County. We've got now OIT, OSU, PSU, all in partnership looking at the possibility of doing combined research as well as training kids. And so I'm pretty excited about it. It's a daunting set of possibilities, and frankly, we've had a few little problems, but we're getting those ironed out. One doesn't put together an initiative of this level of complexity without some little glitches along the way, but we're getting it done. And in my public service, I have not worked on anything as exciting as this.
That's good to hear.
So it's a huge deal. We're going to train kids. We're going to pair them with companies. They'll come out of school with magnificent professional training and credentials.
Yeah, it makes such a difference, Betsy, because I can remember years ago I ran into this fellow. I said, how did you figure out how to go to school for that degree? He was an economist, but he worked in land use and all of these things. When he went to school, he had a plan. And a lot of times you see it. The young person says, well, I'm going to go to college. And that's the end of the sentence.
Yeah.
They don't have a plan. This way they can have a plan.
This has a plan, and it not only pairs the kids with a professional plan, but it pairs them with a job, and that's the really big deal. I gave the graduation speech out at the Oregon Institute of Technology a couple, 3 Sundays ago, and as I'm watching these kids come, they're not kids, they're adults, coming across the stage, and they've got their degree in electrical engineering, they've got their degree in systems analysis, and I'm just thinking as I'm watching them walk across, job. They have relevant training in relevant disciplines where they can go out and easily get a job.
Well,
and it's wonderful.
I see that, too, as the addition with our Ag and Natural Resources facility out at our community college, which that $4+ million project should be, the building's going up now. I think they're within like a couple 100,000 of having it completely funded.
It's interesting you should mention that. I talked to Connie Green about it over the weekend, and yes, they are within a couple of 100,000. They're waiting for word on a grant application that is out right now. I've been trying to round up some contacts for them, and That's going to be a wonderful addition, and Connie Green deserves all kinds of credit for just putting her head down and persevering through some of the problems attendant with making the commitment to build that kind of a building. Connie's leadership out there and the board's leadership have made a world of difference.
We're
and
so
actually,
lucky.
Shaena, it was Tillamook that began this whole career technical education program when Max Sherman was at the high school and began to put together the partnership with Hampton and the Creamery. Tillamook County led the way, and there are others that have rushed in to take credit for what Tillamook County did, but the fact of the matter is it was that high school, it was Ed Armstrong, it was Max Sherman that really pioneered putting together technical training and pairing it with jobs.
I like that. I like to hear that. Let me take one more break for another great sponsor, and then we're going to wrap up, Betsy, but this is from our Tillamook Motor Company, and they say, welcome to the more human side of engineering. The Lincoln MKZ Hybrid, efficiency in its most elegant form. Enjoy the luxury of power. The shared features between the MKZ Hybrid and its gas counterpart go well beyond the exterior. Designers and engineers work hand in hand to deliver a hybrid powertrain while keeping a look of distinction. Whether you're in the market for a new car or something pre-owned, it's nice to know who you're doing business with. And Tillamook Motor Company on the friendly corners of 5th and 7th in Maine and downtown Tillamook has your next vehicle. You get their bottom line, one price without having to haggle, and it includes Ford Protect Premium Care Extended Service Plan for 2 years or 24,000 miles. Take a test drive today at Tillamook Motor Company on the friendly corners of 5th and 7th in Maine and downtown Tillamook. Tillamook Motor Company, a better place to do business. And I know you agree with me on that one, too, don't you, Senator?
I absolutely agree with you. My husband drives a car from them. And they made cars available for the parade, Rex and Roger.
That beautiful 2016 F-150 that we were sitting in, the Roger dropped that off for us.
Well, those guys are so generous with vehicles, and frankly, as a customer, my husband's car came from there, and in no small measure, we bought it there because those guys are so nice.
They are.
Tillamook is blessed with good corporate citizens that step up just time and time and time again. So I, over the weekend, just drafted my little thank you note for access to their wonderful cars. They've been providing cars for the parade as long as I've been representing Tillamook County, and they're just wonderful people.
They are, and they're not alone. I look at the people that step up all the time in this community, and a lot of them, and you see it all the time, Betsy. They don't want any acknowledgement. They just do it because they care.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, all sorts of cool stuff was happening that I noticed during the parade. The Creamery's new ice cream store downtown.
Oh, boy, is that neat. I got to get by there. Folks, that's on the corner of 2nd and Main. Yeah.
They got a great sign. It's just the silhouette of a cow. And the really cool part is for the locals that want to go buy ice cream, instead of going out and standing in line at the Creamery with 20 bazillion tourists and visitors, not that we don't love them, we love them. Yes. But now there's a place to go get ice cream right downtown. That's going to be dangerous. There are going to be some of us that shouldn't be hanging around the ice cream store. But I'm so glad it's down there. The improvements to downtown, I think, are going to really change the face of downtown Tillamook, and the investments that are being made. The Dutch Mill's just done investments. It's downtown's going to be a hopping place here.
Well, it made me think of our downtown when you mentioned the transportation budget, Betsy, because there's a $28 million for the Highway 6 101 interchange. It's going to make a huge difference. We're starting to see it. It's a process. I mean, it's going to be a couple years yet before it's done, but the work that the city's doing on 2nd Street. We have a little bit of growing pains, but when it's done, I always say they'll be like it was always like that.
Well, I know, and there are going to be some people that are going to be unhappy. I know that there was discussion about the loss of some parking spaces, and having construction go on for a long time is annoying to people. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a wonderful amenity. It's going to be safer. It's going to be better. It's a huge investment in downtown Tillamook. And I hope that people don't get too cranky during the period of construction. In the end, it's going to be, I think, an amenity.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm glad to see all the work that the contractor's done on 101 from Tillamook north to Wheeler, which was definitely needed to get done. So what are you off to now, Bets?
Well, I'm headed over later this afternoon over to the community of Timber to talk to them about some alignment issues with the Salmonberry Trail. And we continue to work on the Salmonberry. We've got to work out all of the final alignment on both ends. We've got to make sure that the alignment down on the Tillamook end is respectful of working dairies and doesn't disrupt their operations. We've got to make sure that the alignment up on this end is not problematic up at in the Banks, Buxton Timber area. In some cases, folks have encroached into the but the unused rail right away, and that's got to get all worked out. We're making progress. We've got people stepping up wanting to help with funding. This is going to be, I'll be dead before that project is done. But
well, it's a lot of interest over here. I know I sit on the board of the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad, and they do a great job. Their ridership was up over 22,000 last year, and now we've added the Oregon Coast Rail Riders. Have you checked those out?
That is so cool. I saw it on the television with Justin Optemeyer and Mark Labhart out there pumping away on it, and I think that's going to be a really fun amenity.
But it's low. It's what they call low-impact commercial recreational, but I think it's just funner than heck.
Oh, it's fun. It's a good price point so that families can take their kids. Yeah. It's good exercise. You get to see Tillamook from a completely different perspective. And I think it's going to be just a real tourist draw. I mean, that's like a destination to come down and do that.
And go have some oysters.
Eat some ice cream, have some oysters, and go home. You're a better person for all of that.
Well, Betsy, this weekend, it's going to be a great weekend. We've got the Freedom Festival Saturday and Sunday out at the Blue Heron. We've got, of course, Clover's Day Parade in Cloverdale on Saturday, and then they've got fireworks after the show over at Bob Straub State Park, that in Pacific City. Sunday, there's, wait a second, Rockaway Beach. There isn't Sunday the 4th? Yeah, no, Monday's the 4th. 4th of July, there's parades in Rockaway and Manzanita and fireworks everywhere, so it's another great weekend. Betsy, thank you. I'm really glad. I'm sorry that Leanne wasn't here. She was going to be your host, but I'm really glad we had a chance to visit.
I like talking with anybody at KTIL, and Leanne filled in for you while you were not doing the show, and it worked out splendidly. It's great to be able to talk to you again, and I wish everybody a very, very happy and safe 4th of July. The woods are really dry, so be careful with fireworks and fire out in the woods, but we ought to remember what 4th of July symbolizes for our great country, and I just wish everybody a safe and happy 4th.
Same here. And one shout out to a wonderful person over at Roby's. It's Cindy Lewis's birthday. Happy birthday, Cindy Lewis. And Betsy, thank you again.
Happy birthday, Cindy, and happy 4th of July.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.